the finds from Monte Verde are nothing short of miraculous.
It's quite strange, there's no evidence at all of it ever having been an archaeological site. There are sheep grazing, there's nothing obvious at all.
But a few years back, local villagers came across something strange sticking out of the riverbank. Bones from a mastodon, a prehistoric relative of the modern elephant.
It was a bank just like this that the animal bones were originally found in that alerted people to the fact that this was an archaeological site.
As experts dug down, they discovered much more than just ancient animal bones. Layer by layer, the remains of an entire human settlement emerged. Home to a community of perhaps 20 or 30 people, with shelters, work areas and rubbish tips, a unique relic of our prehistoric past.
The main structure on this site was a very long hut, 20 metres long. I'm going to have a go at measuring it out, but I think I might come into some difficulties because of where the stream is today. Because this log is actually around about 7 metres long. 10 metres is going to take me up to there. I don't want to go any further because I don't want to end up in that very cold stream. But you can imagine how far this hut extended.
And amazingly, we know how this hut was built, because the remains of the wooden stakes and the animal hides that covered it were preserved in the waterlogged ground.
And inside this long hut, the archaeologists found hearths, and in them the remains of nuts and berries and seeds that people had been eating. The hearths were lined with clay, and in part of this clay that presumably was wet at some point, there was somebody's footprint.
About 30 metres away was the strange outline of what was perhaps another, much smaller hut.
Outside it there were butchered mastodon bones, but inside it there were some very intriguing finds indeed. Some plant remains, a few of them seaweeds, that are still used by the Mapuche Indians today as medicines.
Incredibly, the team even discovered the remains of potato skins.
It's the first evidence anywhere in the world of humans eating potatoes. It's amazing to have this degree of preservation on an archaeological site. This really is a treasure trove.
Monte Verde gives us an incredibly rare and wonderful window into our ancestors' daily lives. But for all that, what's most astonishing about Monte Verde is its age.
I'm just off K Street in Washington, D.C. It's a quiet, low-key neighbourhood, and that was the point, because standing near here in a boring-looking building, hidden in plain sight, if you like, was the National Photographic Interpretation Centre. In 1962, armed couriers came to this building with some footage that a spy plane had shot over Cuba. And this is the photo that shocked the analysts, because here are missiles. The Cuban Missile Crisis had begun.
Cuba was just 100 miles from US soil. The photos proved this communist island had medium-range nuclear missiles able to strike America. Kennedy's generals plotted an invasion of Cuba close in size to D-Day. Experts used spy planes to estimate enemy troops on the ground. The CIA told Kennedy 6,000 to 8,000 Russian troops protecting 32 missiles. The reality was even more chilling. On Cuba, were 40,000 Russians and over 90 nuclear warheads. Had the US invaded, it could have triggered nuclear war. But Kennedy overruled his generals. Rejecting invasion, he went for the softer option of a blockade instead. The legend says JFK strong-armed Khrushchev into removing his missiles. He stood tall, eyeball to eyeball, and Khrushchev blinked first. Under powerful pressure, Russia turned its ships around and pulled out the missiles. After serving 3 presidents, elder statesman Dr. Leslie Gelb knows when a story is just too good to be true.
Les, what was the official Kennedy line on how the crisis came to an end?
He faced Khrushchev down. They're at the gunfight at OK Corral. Khrushchev dropped his guns.
And what really happened?
The real story was quite different. In the secret negotiations that were taking place, there were 2 things agreed upon. One was that the Soviets would take their missiles out of Cuba. The other, the one that got hidden for years and years, was that we agreed that we would take our Jupiter missiles, our nuclear Jupiter missiles, out of Turkey, which was on the border of the Soviet Union. And it was almost 10 years later that the true story began to come out.
Why did Americans want to believe this story?
Because it was a story about American toughness. And American toughness is at the very heart of American folklore, of how you win in politics, how you win in foreign policy. And Kennedy proved it, and we like to believe it was true, so we blotted out the real story even after we heard what it was.
And you yourself, Les, you were taken in by this.
No
Is that
question
right?
about it.
All your experience in digging down and discovering secrets, and you thought that they were telling the truth too?
Yes, I sure was. I didn't know the truth, and I didn't find it out privately. And when it was revealed, I was both shocked and felt, of course, that's what must have happened. How else could you have made the deal?
Do you think that the Cuban Missile Crisis had consequences for American foreign policy?
It became a myth that affected decisions almost forever thereafter. That the way to end these crises was by threatening to go to war, not by trying to negotiate, where you'd have to, heaven forbid, compromise, which is an awful word in American foreign policy. But toughness, that's the best word. And the Cuban Missile Crisis proved it.
I've always been fascinated by the early history of North America, so for my next treasure I stay in Colorado, but step back in time. Deep in the canyons of the Rocky Mountains lies the most important ancient site in the United States. Its very existence is a riddle. It was created by mysterious people who disappeared without trace long before Europeans set foot on the Americas. When it was discovered by 2 cowboys a century ago, Mesa Verde rewrote the history of the West. It showed that Native Americans in this region had lived in well-built, organized and permanent urban communities. Within Mesa Verde are concealed the remains of a mysterious people who flourished here about 1,000 years ago. So little is known about them beyond the fact that they were great builders. They constructed for themselves essentially urban communities. And what one gets here is this incredible sense of their at oneness, I suppose, with the world in which they live, these organic buildings. But who were these remarkable people? The answer is we really don't know. Sometimes they're called the Anasazi, but that's simply the Navajo name for the ancient ones. The fact is, they've disappeared from history, leaving behind this haunting imagery of these beautifully constructed buildings.
Little is known about the spiritual beliefs of the Anasazi. What we do know has been gleaned from intriguing underground rooms known as kivas. Most have now lost their roofs.
Oh, now, this is a very good example of a kiva, the circular subterranean room where the family would gather as if for prayers, to tell tales. And on the floor there are two holes. The bigger hole, fireplace. The smaller hole is a sipapu. That is a symbolic connection to the underworld, to their place of origin. They're returning to their place of creation into the womb.
This small town, known as Cliff Palace, has 23 kivas, about 220 rooms, and was home to around 250 people.
Here clearly is the front door. A step, a set of steps going up, a small tapering entrance through which these people would have passed. See if I can get in here. I suppose this is the right approach. Leg over. Ah, yes. Oh. Astonishing. This is where a family, I suppose, would have lived, slept. After a hard day's toil, the fields above and the mesa, they'd come down here. Another door. Ah, good God. Absolutely amazing. Up here, there are wall paintings. If these people are, as some people think, Toltecs who came up here from Central America and then went back, they'd have seen, they'd have remembered these great pyramidal structures. It would have been part of their landscape, their experience from centuries past. Incredible being in here. One connects so directly with this mysterious and lost people.
In the days of the Anasazi, the only way to reach the fields on top was by climbing the steep cliffs, using footholds cut in the rock. They must have had the agility of mountain goats. I soon give up and resort to ladders, which are treacherous enough. As I explore, it soon becomes clear that Cliff Palace was one of many small communities and homesteads built into the Rockies. I can't help reflecting on the fate of the indigenous peoples of the Americas stretching back thousands of years. They were very sophisticated and very admirable, particularly in their relationship with nature. They respected the world in which they lived. They recycled. They worked with nature, not against it. They didn't obliterate their environment. We can learn from this.
Not only is Greenland a Viking colony for 500 years, but according to the sagas, it serves as a launching point for the most epic adventures of all. It starts when the son of Eric the Red, Leif Erikson, is blown off course in a storm in the seas west of Greenland.
Lætur Leifur í haf og lengi úti. He's at sea for quite a long time. Leifur sights new lands, but he had no reason to know that these lands existed.
The sagas describe in detail Leif's trip and the different landscapes he discovers along a mysterious new coastline. For years, archaeologists and historians speculated that this coastline was in North America, and they tried to match the saga's descriptions to the geography we see today.
Lever, he's sailing south down along the coast, and he's describing the different landscapes. They sail past, first of all, a land that they call Hetluland, the land of stone slabs.
Hetluland seems to some experts to match what is now Canada's Baffin Island.
And then they come to a part of the country that's very heavily wooded, and they give the name Markland, or forested land, to that part of the country.
Markland could correspond to today's Labrador. Further south, according to the sagas, Leif sends scouts ashore to explore the new land, and they bring wild grapevines back to the ship. So they name this place Vinland.
And they come back, one of them with a handful of self-sown wheat and the other with a vine in their hand.
Wild vines, is that where they get the name Vinland from?
That's one interpretation, yes, the land of wild grapes and vines.
Some experts thought that Vinland could be what is now Newfoundland and the coast around the Gulf of St. Lawrence.
So that's how, according to this saga, North America was discovered.
So this is hundreds of years before Christopher Columbus. Here it is, in this manuscript right here.
But no one knew for sure if the stories were true without archaeological evidence. All that changed in 1960, when after years of searching, archaeologists made a remarkable find at the northern tip of Newfoundland, in a place called Lansa Meadows. Sarah is on her way to Lansa Meadows to see the only confirmed Viking settlement in North America. She wants to find out what kinds of traces the Vikings left behind here, in the hope that she might discover new sites along the coastline. Approaching the site by boat, just as the Vikings would have, Sarah is struck by the sheer beauty of the place. As well as the extreme obstacles the Vikings faced.
I can't even imagine being a Viking in your boat, sailing by icebergs the size of a mountain. It gives you a sense of just how intrepid and brave they were, seeking new worlds.
Eisenhower knew the Soviet threat was being exaggerated by a shadowy alliance of arms companies and generals. He would dub this the military-industrial complex.
Eisenhower could see that this military-industrial complex could become a danger to democracy, because the whole thing was based on fear. It was circular. Threats to America would be exaggerated. America's response would be to get more arms. And this enormous defense industry that was the result was based largely on paranoia and on some fibs as big as the B-52 bomber itself. And something of that attitude persists to this day. According to the United Nations, America spends more on defense than China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, India, Britain, France, and Japan combined.
A new long-range weapon system, Titan II, was also swallowing cash. This bunker is now a museum. Yvonne Morris was once its commander.
So Lucy, we're going to enter the launch duct now, and you're going to be standing just a few feet away from Titan II intercontinental ballistic missile.
It's such a huge, evil-looking thing.
It's 103 feet tall from the top of the warhead to the bottom where the engines are mounted.
So it's the height of a skyscraper building, really.
Yes.
What can this missile actually do?
Well, it has a 9 megaton warhead on it. That's the explosive equivalent of 9 million tons of TNT. It'll actually decimate an area of 900 square miles.
900 square miles?
Yes.
And when you say decimate, does that mean kill all the people within that area?
A very large percentage of them. And then radiation will pretty much over the next few weeks kill off a large portion of the rest of the population.
Titan II can be up and out of the silo in less than a minute after receipt of launch command. Hurling its payload at speeds of 15,000 miles per hour, nearly halfway around the world.
Should Russia attack, America could destroy Russia in just 30 minutes. It was called mutually assured destruction.
You have to be visible in order to be perceived as a credible threat, and that's what deterrence is based on, the projection of a credible threat. And so the assumption is that each of these missile sites were targeted with multiple incoming missiles. So the expectation for the crew is hopefully we're going to live long enough to launch our missile, but we're on the other end of that 30 minutes, where target 2 from here is going to be a smoking hole. Eventually, this site is going to be a smoking hole.
So let me get this right. The Russians knew that this site was here. That was the point. You wanted them to know that this site was here.
Yes, that's exactly true.
And if you ever had to launch in anger, then you would be pretty sure that they were going to send one straight back here and you would be dead.
And we would be dead.
If the president hit the nuclear red button, over 50 Titan silos like this one would spring into action. As commander, Yvonne would fire her missile. But she was never told what it would destroy. To her, it was just target 2.
All right, so to launch the missile, we're going to act together, you and I. We would insert the launch keys. The deputy crew commanders would go over here underneath this clock. Yours would go right there. And you'll notice, Lucy, that the keys are too far apart to be turned by one person. Are you ready?
I suppose so.
3, 2, 1, turn. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh!
Release.
The lights are going on.
Do you have launch enabled?
Launch enabled.
So very shortly, you're going to hear a loud bell, and
things are happening. The lights
things are happening.
On. Guidance
go. And then you're going to get fire in the engine as soon as the stage 1 engine fires.
Fire.
You and I have now started something that we can't stop. Only a malfunction will stop the launch sequence from this point on. And you have liftoff.
Liftoff. Liftoff has happened. It's gone.
And then about 30 minutes from now, target 2 is going to cease to exist.